Hey, I'm Dr. Bundrick.
Hi.
Haley, how old are you?
21.
Okay.
Just like a month of 21.
What?
I just am like a month of 21.
Okay. All right. And so, how long have you had trouble?
Well, I had bladder problems when I was little, and they always told me that I'd grow out of it. And then I had like a bunch of GI problems, so I guess I kind of forgot about the bladder. But I had my colectomy in 2020, and that's when I started to
Was
know
that for ulcerative colitis?
interstitial cystitis.
Or for your colon resection?
Yeah, they said it was interstitial cystitis. I was never really going to the bathroom.
They took your colon out for interstitial cystitis?
Oh no, colonic inertia. Sorry.
What?
Colonic inertia.
Colonic inertia?
Yeah.
Wow. So your colon, was it like big and not squeezing like it was supposed to?
Yeah, I kind of looked like I was 9 months pregnant.
Really? Wow. And when was that?
2020, but I had been having that problem since I was about 14 years old.
Wow. 2020.
20.
But you'd had trouble with your bladder before that,
Yeah.
since you were a kid.
hmm
What kind of problems had you had with your bladder when you were young?
They kept saying I wasn't emptying because I was holding in pee, but
Mhm.
I don't think I was holding in pee ever.
Really?
Yeah. And I was
Okay.
getting like UTIs.
So you were having recurrent UTIs.
Mhm.
Do you know how old you were when you had your first infection?
No, but I was probably like, I feel like when I started going to a urologist, I was probably like 5 or 6.
Okay. And you had recurrent infections ever since, pretty much?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Have you ever had an infection so severe that you had fever and chills and all that?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm gonna die sometimes.
Really?
Like my body kind of feels like it's gonna shut down.
Okay. And so, did your symptoms get worse after you had your colon resection?
Yeah. I was like having fecal and urinary incontinence.
You're having urinary incontinence. And when you'd have urinary incontinence, was it you couldn't get to the bathroom fast enough?
To me, it kind of felt like my brain and like lower body, like the connection was
They weren't connected.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have urgency now?
Yeah, like all the time now.
You feel like you gotta pee all the time, right?
Yeah, I'm going to the bathroom like every 15 minutes, I feel like.
Yeah. And is there pain?
Sometimes, yeah, it really burns
It burns when you pee or burns all the time?
when I pee.
Okay. And have you seen any blood recently in your urine?
No.
And do you wake up at night to urinate?
Yeah,
How many?
probably 2 to 3 times.
2 to 3?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And right now, are you having pain?
Not right now.
No pain in the lower abdomen? No
Yeah,
pressure?
but I kind of feel it's kind of hard for me to tell if that's like GI or
Mm-hmm.
because they told me like I was having like endometriosis symptoms. They did a laparoscopy and said something about adenomyosis or whatever.
Yeah?
And they were blaming like all of the bladder stuff on my GI tract, and I was like, "There's no way. That doesn't sound right to me."
Really?
Yeah, that was in February.
Okay. And at this moment, does your urethra hurt right now?
Not really.
No, just when you're urinating.
Mhm.
Okay. And when you go to the restroom now to urinate, does it come out free or is it slow?
It's really slow, and it's kind of like I have to sit there for a minute for it to come out.
So it's weak, and do you like go pee and then get up and have to go back and pee again sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there more left in there?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you feel empty ever when you go urinate?
No.
Never feel empty. Okay. And are you sexually active?
Yes.
Yes? Does it hurt?
Yeah.
So you have pain with intercourse.
Mhm.
And how long have you had pain with intercourse?
I really didn't start having sex until recently, so I would say a couple months.
So it's 2 months. But ever since you have, it's been painful.
Yeah.
No fun.
No.
Okay. Does it make your symptoms worse afterwards?
Yeah, because I feel like I always get a UTI afterwards.
Yeah. It just makes your symptoms worse, right?
Mhm.
All right. Do you have any trouble with urine leakage now?
It's not as bad since I had the stem, but there's still like days that it's like really bad and I can't get to the bathroom.
Okay. So sometimes there's such urgency that you leak.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you had an interstim put in, and when was that?
It was August of last year.
August of 22. And do you feel like that the interstim has helped your condition some?
I feel like it helped my bowels, but
Helped your bowel?
that like the symptoms, I know it wasn't gonna fix the symptoms, but they kind of told me it was gonna give me more of an awareness. It kind of did that, but it's still like hit or miss. Like even with my bowels, there's good days and bad days. I mean, I haven't had any incontinence, but the biggest thing for me was like my bowels was just liquid, and I couldn't control that. So there's still days that comes back.
Is it still? Do you still have liquid bowels?
And then it's like kind of like a pudding.
So you have like an ileal rectal anastomosis?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So your entire colon is removed except your rectum, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when was the last time you were given any antibiotics?
I done a round of it when I went to the ER in February, but that was it.
And what symptoms were you having when you went to the ER?
Couldn't pee at all.
Felt like you couldn't pee.
I thought literally I was gonna explode.
You felt like you were going to explode, and then they put a catheter in?
Mhm.
Was there anything in there?
Yeah.
How much?
I think they said 100 cc.
Okay. All right. And when they put the catheter in, did you get relief?
Not really.
No. So that's a classic story of infection when you feel like you're going to bust, and there's 100 cc's in there. Well, that's not much really, but you feel like there's 1,000, right? And they put a catheter in, and they get a little bit of urine out. You don't get relief, right? See, that's infection. That's infection every time.
And then they said I had E. coli.
You had E. coli then?
Mhm.
Do you have that culture result with you?
Yeah.
Let me see that. Where are you from?
Kentucky.
Kentucky. What part?
Maysville. Kind of northern, kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a social worker.
Really? Where did you go to school?
UK.
All right.
You can kind of, I don't know which one it was, but
E. coli. And what antibiotic did they give you? Do you remember?
no, but I should be able to see it on the test, or not the test result, but the visit summary.
Did they take the catheter out when they put it in?
Yeah. They just got the pee and then
Uh-huh.
took it out. Ceflex?
Keflex?
Yeah.
And did you feel better?
No.
No response. Okay. But clearly there was infection in there causing your symptoms, right? How long did they give you the antibiotics?
I think it was a week.
A week? So Keflex times 1 week, no response. Okay. All right. Well, this is a pretty typical case of a young lady with chronic bacterial cystitis, okay? You have a very common story where you developed infections when you were a little girl, and you've probably had an infection in your bladder ever since. Phenotypically, most of the patients with this problem have eyes that are just like yours. They have blue eyes, green eyes. You rarely see this in dark-eyed ladies. So there's something wrong with the immune system in your bladder that allows these bacteria to invade. And you have E. coli, obviously you had E. coli then, you've had E. coli probably for years and years and years that lives in your bladder. And sometimes it's in the urine and sometimes it's not, but it's always in the bladder lining. When the bladder lining has a couple of components to it. It has muscle, and on top of that is like skin. So your bladder skin is damaged, and that damage is transmitted to the muscle also. And that when the bladder muscle is irritated, it wants to go. Does that sound like you? Yeah. And when your bladder skin is irritated, it causes pain.
I also had a cystoscopy on February the 1st, and they stretched my bladder, and ever since then, I feel like it's been worse.
Oh, of course. So you got the old hydrodistension, and you're worse. Well, that's because they drove the bacteria even further into your bladder lining with the pressure. They generate pressure when you do a hydrodistension. Usually you put 70 centimeters of water pressure into the bladder, and so what it does is it expands the bladder, and it cracks the bladder, and it cracks the lining, and it doesn't solve any problems.
Yeah,
generally.
I remember like when I woke up, I was like, I need to pee, and the guy's like, no, you don't. I was like, okay, well, I peed all over the bed.
Wow.
As soon as I woke up.
Okay. All right. So before you had this E. coli infection in February, have you ever been given an antibiotic and you go, oh, I feel better?
I don't even think I've ever really had an antibiotic long enough to know that I would feel better.
How many courses of antibiotics have you had over the past 5 years, you think? Very few? Because they told you had IC?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't believe you have IC. I don't believe IC exists. I think you have a chronic infection in your bladder that's been there for years, and your bladder is irritated from that infection. And again, the bladder only knows to do two things. The bladder knows to hurt, and the bladder knows to go. And if it's irritated, it's going to do one or both of those things. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to identify the bacteria a little bit better. Now, they did that culture grew E. coli, but they don't usually put the sensitivities on the patient portal. So when you get home, you're going to need to go to that doctor or wherever that was done and get the sensitivities and get them to me. So we'll know exactly what the bacteria is sensitive to.
So even though it's at an ER?
Yeah. It was a hospital ER?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'll just have to go to the hospital and say, I want my sensitivities and I'm not leaving until you give them to me. You know, then they'll say, well, we'll send them to you. Don't say, no, I want my sensitivities right now, or I'm not leaving this building. And then they'll go, oh, okay, we'll give them to you then. Okay? And then I would suggest that we go ahead and start you on something before you leave and get you on the road to recovery. But you know, this is just a chronic infection that you've had for years and years and years, and it's going to take years to fix. I mean, you'll probably feel a lot better in the meantime, but it's just going to take a long time. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool.